Irreverent, entertaining, cool. You're listening to LA Talk Radio.
You're listening to Peace Fund Radio with Ethan Dettenmaier and Adrian Paul, right here on LA Talk Radio.
Hello, 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 and we are back for another week of amazing stuff, I would imagine. How's your week, Ethan?
Fantastic. How's yours?
It's been very busy. Let's put it like that.
Yeah.
It's been a very busy week.
Because of...
Well, I went to Fort Lauderdale last week to work on this new show that we've got about to announce. I would imagine within the week. And so I went there, did that for a little bit, and came back. Easter. How was your Easter, by the way?
Fantastic,
man.
Great. Yeah.
Did you do any Easter egg hunts? You did? We have Ethan's daughter in the studio.
You can come up and say hi for a minute. Yes, you did it. We did an Easter
Come and
egg.
say hello. Hello?
Say hello.
Hello this morning. My voice is gone. Hello this morning.
Yes, we did an Easter egg hunt. We did do an Easter egg hunt.
And did you have fun with it?
Yes.
Yeah.
We did a charity event the night before, and then we did an Easter egg hunt on the day. We had to go see my grandparents.
Oh.
So they don't travel. We had to travel to them. But it was
and not just Ethan's daughter, but also a Peace Fund Radio Hero of the Week.
Oh, yes.
That's right. You are a Peace
Fund Hero of the Week.
Yes, let's not forget you have a title.
You've just gone all shy on us now, haven't you?
You can put that on your You can put that on your resume later, you know. Yeah. You should put that under qualifications. Peace Fund Hero of the Week. But yeah, it was great. How was yours?
It was very, as I said, busy. I mean, we had two Easter egg hunts on the Saturday for the kids, one in one place, one in another. And then we went strawberry picking, which was another Easter event.
Now, where did you do that?
That was at a farm outside.
Oh, right. So you and the farm's open on Easter, so you can go.
No, but it's a whole
party.
event. This place makes oodles of cash.
Yeah.
I mean, they do strawberries, raspberries, radishes.
Did you get a bunch
cabbages.
of produce?
I got some, yeah, a little bit. But they do a whole Easter egg.
Yeah.
I want to call it Emmerdale Farm. That was an old thing we used to have in England, actually. But it's a huge farm where they have thousands of people go through that place.
Right.
And they have events. They've got the bunny. They've got the knock the egg off. They've got they have a whole.
Isn't anyone else besides myself suspicious of the size and nature of this bunny? I mean, for years I've looked at this bunny and I've been like, would you grow up next to like a Chernobyl?
Yeah, my kids keep asking me, why does he keep changing sizes?
And why is he so big? Why is this bunny like human in characteristics? It walks on two legs instead of four, follows you around, seems to have the ability to communicate. It's all quite terrifying.
Especially for a 3-year-old, I'm sure.
Right. I look at this and I'm like, Santa Claus, okay, that's a person. We get it. But this rabbit thing...
where does the rabbit come from?
I think there's writers at Starbucks scribbling down notes saying, I've got the next movie. I've got the next horror movie right now.
I've already got half of it written.
Yeah, there you go. Beerley's, can we have a script
John
for that
is writing furiously as we speak in the area that you're in.
Easter
John.
bunnies attack. But it was a nice Easter for you?
John, how was your Easter, John?
It was very good. It could not have been better. We ate a massive amount of delicious home-cooked food at my aunt's house. And then about an hour later, I was invited to some friends invited me over there for more amazing home-cooked food. And their kids had an Easter egg hunt, which was a lot of fun to watch the kids be out there in the beautiful, beautiful weather having a lot of fun. It was great. It was really good.
Well, I'm glad you had a good time there, John. I hope everybody else had a good time. I'm sure not everybody celebrates it, but those of you that did, I hope you had a fantastic time. We also yesterday kind of finalized our event, didn't we?
Right.
May 21st. May 21st, the Peace Fund is going to have a Highlander Evening where you can actually join myself and a couple of other Highlander guests at a private dinner for 20 people. Ooh, isn't that interesting? Where do we find the information for that?
If you actually, the event will be held at Gordon Biersch in Burbank, which is 145 South San Fernando Boulevard in Burbank, California. It's a first-class establishment. But as far as the private event, the dinner, those reservations, they're going through Bev, correct?
Correct, yes. Bev at the Peace Fund. So if you're interested in reservations and finding out more, you can contact bev at thepeacefund.org.
Yeah, but it's a once-in-a-lifetime experience for many of you who are fans of either Adrian Paul and or Highlander, or both together.
Yeah, and all proceeds of that evening go to the Peace Fund. It's a Peace Fund event.
Silent auction and an opportunity to do some good.
And we have a live Peace Fund radio question and answer, which you could actually ask us some questions as well, some of the cast members that will be there. And Elizabeth Grayson will be there.
And you can hear all the stories from Highlander firsthand with someone sitting literally at your table from top to bottom. So that's a unique experience, one worth being a part of, I would think.
As well as the Highlander audiobook that we're launching, and Elizabeth Grayson's book as well that we're launching.
So you can
so
get
there's a couple of different things that are happening.
Yes, 2 classical items that you can't get anywhere else that night. A 2-disc Adrian Paul audio book, because 1 disc cannot contain it all.
Do you know what? The amount of things that happen on Highlander,
yes.
I don't think 2 would be sufficient at all.
There should be a 3rd part for like over 18, but there's a great audio like basically reconnaissance in the production of Highlander, and other things are discussed. Your work with Duran, your work with Sandra Bullock and La Potion. It's all kind of.
Why does Duran? John's laughing in the background because Duran seems to be the highlight of Ethan's career.
I felt like we should have called the audiobook My Own Way. I really, honestly, because it does. First of all, it is true to the discussion. But it is kind of where it all started, at least for many of us. But I will say this, and I've done a lot of audio and radio work over the years, and this particular book is one of the more unique experiences and one of probably the better sort of audio components you can get your hands on, because it goes through real life in a way that just is rare, and it's just a fun book and conversation. And that'll premiere that night, May 21st. You'll get a chance to get the book. I mean, you'll get a chance to hear a lot of stories that aren't in the book firsthand at the dinner, but it's a special experience.
Yeah,
it would definitely be worth it for anybody who's interested in that to check it out. Elizabeth Grayson is just one of the sweetest people on the planet. She loves to meet people. She loves to tell stories. Really great person. So if you're thinking about it, if you're on the fence, dive in. It'll be great. And
I was going to conduct the Q&A part of the evening in a
bunny suit, outfit. Maybe a bunny suit. I want you in a bunny. Since it's Easter, you have to be in a bunny.
Easter will have passed, my friend. The combat radio show, and in some sort of matador outfit or tributary outfit. But I'm actually looking forward to that part of the evening too. And that's a second-tier part of the event, correct? So people can attend. If you can't get into the dinner, which we assume will probably sell out this week or next, fairly quickly, then you have a chance to still be involved with the great cause, and Bev can explain to you all the dynamics on that, and we'll be adding details as we go along.
It'll be on the Facebook site.
Yeah. And I'm going to try to be there as well, so I can be your wingman, Ethan.
Excellent! You can take over for me.
You can take over for her. Are you going to wear a bunny suit, John?
I
Only if Ethan does, right?
Yes, if Ethan does, I have no choice.
In that case, it's actually tempting. So we get a couple of grown men to dress as bunnies at this thing. It's actually now starting to seem like a diabolical plan. Like maybe
you can at least talk to your present Warner
You
Brothers.
Brought this subject
get us a Batman and Robin costume or something. Huh?
Batman and Robin. Which one are you going to be?
I'm no Batman. Ethan is the Batman of children's causes in Los Angeles. I can't even.
No. I'm hardly a Batman.
Claim that.
But did you ever have a meeting on Batman? Somebody I think told me at one point that you were a candidate for that, and I actually fired back saying that would have been a good choice. Actually, that's an interesting possibility.
No, I don't think I ever was. No. I mean,
you weren't like the Nick Cage Superman. You don't have one of those stories in your background of like.
I have other stories.
It is a good. Whoever said it, and I can't recall who asked me about it. It is a good choice. But the audio book you did is fantastic. It is a rarity. I can see it sitting in the Smithsonian one day. It's hilarious. It's really endearing, and she's laughing.
I'm actually going to etch it out. Like
you should
in stone. Like they did in the Stone Age.
Yeah,
and then put it in this first paragraph.
Like the hammer at the end of 1 Adam 12. Oh, there's his agent now calling, saying.
Well, actually, that's my publicist talking about the sword experience. She's going to be calling about the Temecula sword experience.
Now, what's the dates on that?
Temecula sword experience is going to be on April 10th. We also have other dates already just confirmed. Chicago, May 1st, I believe it is, in Chicago. We're just finalizing the location for that. Then we also have Stuttgart, London and Stuttgart at the end of June. We have which is almost sold out now, is the event in Houston. I think there's about 10 spaces left there now.
Can I ask you, if for someone asked on the street, the sword experience, what is that? What is that? For someone who may not know.
It's taking you into a different realm. It's putting you into the movies in a sense, as well as giving you live techniques. It's to teach you how to play with a sword if you're a cosplayer, if you're a martial artist. There are a lot of different techniques and things that I explain, as well as it's in a fun location. It's an experience where, like, Temecula is a winery, so we're doing it in that type of setting, and I'm going to create the sword fight based on what that setting is. Basically what Bob Anderson always taught me, which was, you create the fight around the setting rather than create the fight and then put it in the setting, because then it becomes much more aesthetically pleasing, and then it allows you to understand why certain things work and some don't in the movies. And every place we're going to is going to be in an entirely different location. So, and I just announced Pensacola as well. I'm going to be going in Pensacola in August. At the Pensacola Con, and we're looking to do a sword experience down there as well in August. So we've got a lot of dates that it looks like also that, well, we'll see. There's a couple of other dates at the end of the year, but I think we need to get on to our subject of the day, really. I think we need to talk about today about, and it's appropriate we have a young lady in the room, everyone wins when girls are educated. There's an old African proverb, if you educate a boy, you educate an individual. If you educate a girl, you educate a community. Every child has a right to an education. Education is very important to every child, whether it's a boy or a girl. And it's sad that in some communities there's a discrimination against the education of a girl. It's a surefire way to raise economic productivity, lower infant and maternal mortality, improve nutritional status and health, as well as reduce poverty and wipe out HIV and AIDS and other diseases. So, with this evidence suggesting that countries with better gender equality and less gender disparity in primary and secondary education are more likely to have higher economic growth, we find that some countries are losing more than $1 billion a year by failing to educate girls to the same level as boys. Now, we're going to have a great guest on the show this morning, but I do want to, John, let's bring some facts today. I'm going to let you start with these facts regarding girls because I think it's very important for people to understand it.
Women represent nearly 2/3 of the world's illiterate. It's staggering. 2/3. 66 million girls of primary and lower secondary school age are not even in school, according to the United Nations Educational, Scientific, and Cultural Organization, or UNESCO.
Now, I want to stop you just for a second, John, because it's very interesting that you mentioned that, about the 2/3 of the world's illiterate are women. Because we've also stated in the past that many of the people in the prison system are illiterate. They cannot read or write, therefore they cannot get jobs. I'm wondering how many of the women in the prison system have that issue compared to the men, what the balance or the percentages are between the men and women in our prison system as to how many are illiterate or not, because it'd be interesting to see whether what the numbers are comparing the two. But
try to find that number by the end of the show.
Carry on.
There are 33 million fewer girls than boys in primary school. A child born to a literate mother is 50% more likely to survive past the age of 5. So that's an important statistic. This is not just about the children, it's about the mothers as well. Educated mothers are more than twice as likely to send their children to school.
And John, I just want to mention, these are not just numbers we pull out. They're from UNESCO, UNICEF. There's United Nations Educational, Scientific and Cultural Organization, which is UNICEF, Education First. These are all organizations that have done studies in this field.
Yes, and from the National Academies Press, girls with 8 years of education are 4 times less likely to be married as children. That's something we talked about on the show a lot. That's something that happens a lot in India. We had Ruchita Zaparte, one of our heroes of the week, who sends sewing machines to women in India so that they can, get their kids in school to keep the children from being married off at young ages. A girl with an extra year of education can earn 20% more as an adult, according to the World Bank. And we were speaking about India a moment ago. If India would enroll 1% more girls in secondary school, just 1%, their GDP would rise by $5.5 billion. That's unbelievable. According to the Global Campaign for Education. And that's one of the worst countries there is for young girls being married off when they're barely in their teens, and they're married off, and that's basically it.
I'm wondering also, John, because a lot of people actually, a lot of people from India, from Asia, Philippines, a lot of other countries send their children or their families abroad to get an education and work abroad, and then bring their resources back home. And India has, over the past 10 years, grown enormously in outsourcing for things like AT&T and different companies like that, where you have a call-in center. And the level of IT education, I think, in India is enormous and growing that economy exponentially right now.
And if girls had that secondary education, child marriage would drop by 64%. The number of child brides around the world would fall from almost 2.9 million, where it is now, to just over 1 million.
Well, as I said, we're going to have a great guest on the show in a second. I want to tell you a little bit about her. She created an organization called Days for Girls. Celeste Mergens has like 17 years experience in non-profit. She's got a reputation of building teams and strong personal interest in sewing and tailoring. She put her creativity to use to find a solution by listening to the feedback of women around the globe that led to a uniquely appropriate design, which is 27 years later. 7 years after that, she did Days for Girls, which empowers women and girls in 87 countries currently on 6 continents. It's been featured in O Magazine, Forbes, and was recently named a Huffington Post Next 10 organization positioned to change the world in the next decade. She definitely has a passion for this issue, and I'm sure we're going to hear it in a second. I want to ask her, a lot of different questions: literacy, human trafficking, political representation, babies, etc., etc. All these items that will actually definitely affect the girls in our communities. Ethan, can we get her on at the moment?
Here we go.
As I said, Celeste is in Washington State's 2014 Mother of the Year and recipient of the Soroptimist Ruby Award. I'm very grateful to be part of such a direct and effective key to empowering people and communities. So here we go. We're going to get her on the line and see what she has to say. Although live radio is always so exciting.
And we actually have an upcoming hero of the week who's worked with our organization as well.
Hello, Celeste.
Hi.
Celeste.
Oh, no, not Celeste, but hold on just a moment. Let me grab her for you.
Thank you very much. What were you saying, John?
We actually have an upcoming hero of the week who has done a lot of work with Celeste's organization.
Oh, really? Well, that'd be interesting to mention that, I think, because
for sure.
I love being able to sort of connect people together, but this one's already a connection. But I think it'd be always good to sort of push things together further.
Indeed.
But, Days for Girls have got a very bold mission, which I want to mention in a second, which I will mention in a second, to Celeste. They've got a lot of different programs that they have done, and they're also she's done a lot of stuff at the governmental level as well. So it's a very interesting organization that we've got on the show this morning. Have you ever heard of it before, Ethan?
No, I haven't.
That's what I find amazing. Even organizations that are doing amazing things. I mean, we've all heard of UNESCO and UNICEF because they're huge, enormous global organizations, but there are a lot of other organizations that are coming up and are making strides in various communities that we've never heard of, and that's part of what this show is all about. What do you think about girls? Yeah. What do you think about this issue about girls getting educated?
Well, I think that we have the right to an education. We should get.
You get But let's put you a little bit more on the mic.
Yeah.
Say that again.
Jump up there so people can.
I think that girls have the right to an education and they should get one.
What do you think about it being a male or female thing? Do you think there should be a difference?
Nope.
No, I don't either. I just thought I'd mention it because, you don't ever have that in classes that you're in, right? You never have the girls should sit here and the guys should sit over here. Is there any sort of... guys always want to sit at the back of the class and throw things usually, but... Yeah. And girls sit at the front. You see, that teaches you something immediately.
We get a few paper airplanes.
Paper airplanes. When I was a kid, I used to have do you know what compasses are?
Yeah.
Right. I used to have a compass, and I was playing with this kid in front of me, and I threw it, and it stuck in his jacket.
Oh.
Yeah, I was a bad boy.
He's lucky it stuck in the jacket.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was taught by many different people as we went around.
It's like my friend in junior high. I thought it was a good idea to test out a throwing star.
Yes.
And threw it at a live target. Yeah, and we realized that we could have probably killed somebody.
Currently, excuse me, Days for Girls has an initiative that's running. Is that there's actually a huge billboard in Times Square, from what I understand, called Why 5 More Days. It's 5 More Days initiative, which we'll mention, but it's basically time is precious. It's a campaign to get the world talking about periods by talking about the value of having 5 more days every month. Everyone's invited to participate and join the movement to ensure every woman and girl has access to what she needs to go to live her life freely and without interruption. Now, I actually did, and I'll be posting it after the show, a photo regarding this initiative. What would you do if you had 5 more days? Interesting question. Ever thought about that? If you had 5 more days in the month, what would you do? The initiative 5 More Days is on social media. Would you climb the highest peaks in the world? Could you call your mum more? Could you learn to surf? Whatever it is, that's okay. Hello.
We're calling our guest again. She dropped out.
Oh,
somehow.
She dropped out somehow? Okay, that's why there was silence on the other end of the phone. So we're going to get her back on. And people can share 5 more days or donate $5 for Days to Girls. The important emphasis is on donate, of course.
Hello, Days for Girls. This is Celeste. May I help you?
Celeste, good morning. It's Adrian Paul here.
Good morning, Adrian. Good to hear your voice.
How are you this morning?
Doing fabulous.
Sorry,
and you?
We lost. I think I've lost my voice a little bit this morning. I'm not sure why.
Oh.
Maybe because I was shouting at a driver this morning.
That does it every time.
Yeah, it doesn't work. See, I get the pain for it. Silly me. So where are you calling us from this morning?
I'm here in Washington State at Days for Girls headquarters. I'm actually home for once.
You're home for... Yeah, I know the feeling. Trust me. You do a lot of traveling, don't you?
I do get that great privilege.
Yeah, I actually find it a privilege to travel, to be totally honest. I think, it's a fantastic way to see the world and understand other cultures and allow you to sort of broaden your horizons and allow your what did I say, your opinions on other people to actually be tempered a little bit by understanding what they do and how they live their lives.
It's true, isn't it? And also being able to see that we do see things differently and we do experience things in different ways, and that's a good thing, not a bad thing. And we're stronger if we acknowledge that in each of us.
I think we have a idea of things, and we have our own notions. And I want to just mention a little story. Years ago, when I was shooting in Philippines, I was. I try anything. When I go to different places, I'll try the food. I'll try, different. I'll go out to see the culture, etc. And I was sitting in the hotel, and I was eating the Filipino food, and the cast members there were sitting there going, "Oh no, I'll have a hamburger," and I was like, "Really? I mean, this is good food." "Oh no, I don't know what's in it. You've got the bugs." I said, "Well, I'm eating it," so I ate it. And after a little bit, these other people joined in to eat, and they went, "Oh, this is really good." And like 2 or 3 days later, everybody's eating the food. And I'm like, now you're beginning to understand the culture. Don't sort of come here with a predestined notion of what you should and shouldn't do.
Who goes to another country?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I agree.
So let me ask you a few things. Obviously, Days for Girls, how long has Days for Girls been actually in operation now?
7 years.
7 years.
It's been 7 years now.
And you founded the organization, is that right?
I did. Really, technically, I'm the really good listener who pays attention, keeps working, and shows up. But yes.
Those are 3 very good components right there, I think. So you've got a very bold mission. Your goal is every girl, everywhere, period, by 2022.
Exactly.
So, I mean, that's a big goal. I mean, it's beginning to work. Can you tell us a little bit about, how your team and your volunteer network works? I mean, I know you're working with governments and other non-profits and companies as well. How is your structure working?
So it's rather extraordinary and really unique. It's a hybrid, if you will. We have tens of thousands, more than 60,000 everyday heroes who sew Days for Girls kits that last 2 to 3 years with their own 2 hands and do the impossible. They tell complete strangers about periods, and let's be honest, that's probably a topic you never thought you'd have on your show.
Oh, there's been a lot of topics on this show, trust me on that.
and they go out and make these and fund and talk to people and make it possible for now over 300,000 women and girls in 101 nations to have what they need to have the dignity and opportunity that is made available when they are able to deal with basic biological functions of something as basic as menstruation not being managed. It has a terrible impact, and they change that, creating all this more opportunity, time, and reach and dignity. It's amazing. So they do that. We have 16 nations, 610 chapters and teams in 16 nations on 6 continents doing that, if you can believe that.
Wow. It's actually, I'm going to take it from a man's point of view now. I actually had this discussion last week when I was down in Fort Lauderdale about it actually affects a guy as well, because if we could openly discuss that between men and women, because women don't want to tell men when they're in that time of the month. And if we knew, because there is a hormonal change and there is a certain change in the, how can I put it, behavior sometimes of a lady when she's going through that process. If we knew it, and I've said this to my wife before, if I know that you're going through that, then I understand it and I can temper my behavior as well, and we'll be much happier in those 3 or 4 days rather than me trying to figure out what's going on, or if I've ticked you off or if something's happened. I think it's easy to discuss, but we've never been able to discuss that between men and women as well.
It's true, isn't it? It is taboo even here to talk about. We would rather talk about diarrhea than menstruation, and it's, we don't know why, but that's, in my experience, the truth. And the impact is, like you're saying, these misunderstandings, but it's even bigger around the world, Adrian. It's girls missing school. It's women being isolated, sitting on a piece of cardboard or in a hut that's outside of where their home is because they're not allowed inside. It's a barrier that is only still there because we haven't talked about it. And the lack of solutions in the world are only because we've been afraid to talk about it. And absolutely, what are we afraid of? I'm so glad you're one that sees, what if we just talk about this? What if that changed the world a bit and made it a better place for all of us? And it is.
Don't women talk about it amongst themselves? I know my wife and her girlfriends, this week is blah, blah, blah. I know they do because I've had that conversation, but men just don't want to hear it. But it'll make their life a lot better and make the relationship better, I think, in the end.
I agree. I think it varies from person to person
I guess,
where they're willing to talk about it. But what if we just said what's true? Without periods, there'd be no people, and therefore we're all related to it. And what if we called this done? What if homeless women didn't have to wonder what they're going to do? What if schoolgirls, even here in the U.S., didn't have to worry about, how do I go to school today because I don't have what I need? It's not everywhere, but anywhere that a family has to choose between food and hygiene, this becomes an issue. And thank you for expressing that it's bigger than that. It's this barrier that doesn't have to be. We could just talk about this.
Well, it's also a social economic barrier because we mentioned earlier in the show, if you empower women to actually go to an education, in India, for instance, if they only raised it by 1% extra, it's a 5.5 billion increase in the GDP of India. So we're talking about it's not just a social issue, it's also an economic issue.
Absolutely. And it's also an issue of health, of course, which is also economic. And that brings us to the other part of Days for Girls. The other arm of Days for Girls is to teach women, girls, and communities to make their own hygiene system and create Days for Girls kits, make it a business, and become ambassadors of women's health. So they actually have a curriculum and flip charts that they can have a conversation about women's health and safety and important conversations about being a woman in their community. And that's led by them for their community. And that's how we can say something so audacious as Every Girl Everywhere, period, by 2022, because it can be led by them if we all work together.
Let me ask you, when they do these seminars, I would take it, or explaining, do they include the whole community, or is it just the women?
We do both. We sometimes separate it so the boys have their conversation, the girls have their conversation, because it can be difficult, especially in some cultures, to talk about this together. They'll ask more questions and be more open, but again, really, these conversations need to be all of us, especially if it's going to break cycles of shame and cycles of violence. It needs to be all of us having this conversation, and it's huge, the impact it has.
You have something that's going right now, which is 5 more days. I understand what it is. Can you tell me a little bit about it and how it started? I know you have a big billboard in Times Square, and I've done my 5 more days placard that I'll be sending off to you later on.
Yay! Thank you. So our 5 More Days campaign is about the reality that there are women and girls all over this world who lose 5 days of productivity because of lack of resources they need. And it may be difficult for some of us to relate to or talk about this issue, but the truth is that there is, it's about time. It's about that priceless commodity of time that you can't gain back. And that becomes so huge when you add it up through a whole nation, so huge when you add it up to all the people being affected in our world. And so we're asking the world to hashtag 5 more days and say, what would you do with 5 more days? Would you learn a new language if you have 5 more days every month? Would you learn to surf? Would you climb the mountains you've been hoping to climb and prepare for that because you have 5 more days a month, and relate that to the days lost for women and girls all over this world? And what if we gained those back? Because it's going to take all of us to change some of the trends that happen here in violence and in the loss, and we can gain them back. There are a lot of things in this planet that are hard to change, but this isn't one of them. This is something we can change. So we're asking the world, what if you had 5 more days? What would you do with them? And climb on board, tell the world why 5 more days matter, and share that and support Days for Girls, because we can do this.
I think it's a great idea, and I know there's, as I said, a big billboard. For those of you in New York, you'll see it. I think it's in Times Square, isn't it?
Mm-hmm. It is.
Right in Times Square.
On the corner of 47th and Broadway, I believe it is.
So here's another question. Days for Girls started 7 years ago. That's not a very long time for you to be in the position that you're at. How did you get so big so fast? And, I mean, obviously there is an issue of getting the volunteers out there, making sure that you have different organizations you're partnering with. I mean, I've been doing this for a long time, and I understand there are a lot of technical or business issues that you have to take care of before you can really grow.
Oh, it's miraculous, right? You understand how phenomenal this is. I believe it's because we're tenaciously flexible, and we are completely determined. Adrian, if you saw even one of these groups receiving their Days for Girls kits and how they respond and how they continue the conversation and how they write back in or report back in how it's changed their lives, it makes you on fire to make this happen because it's simple, direct, and effective. I think it's an idea that's time has come. I think we're ready in our world to just take this on, and more people are partnering and stepping up and saying, I recognize this is an issue, and this is the way I can help change it.
So let's say you have another country that you want to go into. How would you approach it? Would you go to an organization and say, this is what we're doing, and how would you empower that organization to start this type of program?
Great question. We generally let it drive itself. Which is what I mean by being tenaciously flexible. If a group approaches us, we're fearless in sharing what our knowledge and resources have been. We're incredibly responsive. So our Days for Girls kit isn't my genius. It isn't any member of this team's genius. We asked women and girls all over the world what served them best. How does this work? How does this not work? Until we had 27 different versions of our kits to get to where it is today, where it uses a little water, dries quickly, it doesn't look like a pad, so it breaks the shame barrier. All of those genius innovations were driven by honoring the wisdom of those we serve. And we do that both with our process for design and also with our partnering processes. We genuinely care that it is locally driven, that it is owned by all of us, and that we're just getting this done. And it's working.
Well, we actually we have Heroes of the Week every week on Peace Fund Radio, and actually, John, we had one of them that's actually worked with Days for Girls. Is that right?
We did. Rachel Haberman from Seattle, Washington. She had, in October of 2013, she started the Edmonds, Washington chapter for Days for Girls and was able to raise $10,000 for the organization at that time.
Isn't that amazing? And do you remember how old she was? 12.
Yes.
She was,
so you knew that, didn't you? And that's what I find about young girls, not young girls, young people in general. The tenacious, you talk about tenacity, the tenacious nature of a child is huge compared to an adult most of the time because they don't know what no means. They haven't met that barrier so much anymore. And so, I think you realize as well that the kids really are some way to sort of get into these communities to actually explain the issue.
Isn't it exciting? And to see the difference she can make. And her focus is primarily being on getting homeless and marginalized girls that are having difficulty going to school or were homeless completely to have what they need.
Well, Celeste, there's also a couple of other organizations I think might be interested to. We deal with Haiti, Cambodia, Thailand, Hungary, Romania. So there might be some other places we might be able to sort of link you up with that might be interested in sort of partnering with you to sort of get this program into other countries as well. So,
that'd be lovely. Thank you.
I'll see what we can do about that. Celeste, thank you for... am I going to meet you one day? I'm sure I am at some point.
Oh, I hope so. Let's make that happen.
And you're up in Washington?
Yes.
Oh,
yes.
Okay. Well, I tend to travel a lot. I was actually up in Seattle, Washington a little while, about 3 months ago. But anyway.
Perfect. That's our area.
That's your area. Okay. Well, Celeste, thank you so much for joining us this morning. And good luck with 5 more days because I think it's going to be great. I'll send my tag out there very shortly, and we'll see if I can actually send some more stuff to you and link you up with some other organizations as well.
Oh, couldn't be better. Such a privilege to be with you today.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Celeste. Bye-bye. Mm-hmm. So there you have it. I mean, I think it is huge. I mean, actually, to grow an organization that fast, 7 years is a very quick time to do it. I want to actually get to our Peace Fund Hero of the Week, John, because I know we're going to run out of time as we normally do. But can you bring us our Hero of the Week because it fits right into this week's into our interactive storytelling, which we've discussed before.
Yes, today's Hero of the Week recently appeared on the International Literacy Association's 30 Under 30 list, which includes some of our other Heroes of the Week as well. We're very proud of them. Her name is Katie Eder, and she founded Kids Tales at www.kidstales.org to inspire kids who don't typically get writing experiences and opportunities outside of school to create, compose, and publish their own stories. Katie is joining us today to talk about her own inspirations and to tell us how Kids Tales works.
Fabulous. We're going to get her on the line very shortly, but I do want to mention a couple of the other issues that face girls. I mean, we did talk about literacy. Since we're going to be talking to Katie in a second, there's 163 million illiterate youth across the globe. Nearly 63% of them are female, which offers all children education, will prop up literacy rates, offering them this education. Pushing it, and it will push forward development in struggling nations and regions across the world. It also deals with human trafficking, thriving babies. According to the United Nations Girls' Education Initiative, children of educated mothers are twice as likely to survive past the age of 5, as well as teaching girls safe sex. Weddings are suggested later by the United Nations Population Fund. In underdeveloped countries, 1 in every 3 girls is married before reaching the age of 18. In a region where a girl receives 7 or more years of education, the wedding date is delayed by 4 years. 4 years more productivity for that nation and for that region. It allows for smaller families because the increased participation in school reduces fertility rates over time. In Mali, for example, women with secondary education or higher have an average of 3 children. Counterparts with no education have an average of 7 children. That's a lot of difference, a lot of stress. Do we have Katie on the line yet this morning? We are just ringing her right now. John, I'm going to let you talk to Katie first of all. I think that'd be fabulous.
All right.
Let's see if we get you to do it for this morning. I tend to babble on a little bit, but anyway. But again. The last also, we did mention, if you give a girl an education, you're going to increase her income potential. It empowers a woman's wallet through boosting her earning capabilities. Katie,
you're on the line?
Are you on the line, Katie?
Yeah.
Hello,
good morning, Katie. Welcome to Peace Fund Radio.
Hello, thank you guys so much for having me.
Thank you for coming on. Where are you calling us from today, Katie?
Milwaukee, Wisconsin.
And can you tell our listeners how old you are?
I'm 16.
Now, we've been talking about education, especially specifically education for girls today. Before we talk about Kids' Tales, how and when did you discover your own love for creative writing?
When I first discovered creative writing, I was actually in 5th grade, and it sort of happened by accident. I broke my arm during the winter break of my 5th grade year, and so I had to quit all of the sports I was playing, and I couldn't really do anything active anymore. And so I decided to start taking a bunch of writing classes, and that sort of really sparked my first interest. And I sort of discovered this hidden voice within myself that I had never been able to have with any of the other sports I was doing. So I sort of discovered this passion that I had.
How did it make you feel, Katie? This is Adrian Paul. Good morning. How did it make you feel?
Definitely, writing gave me an opportunity to be empowered and sort of say what I wanted to say, and really have a voice and sort of have control over something that was going on in my life.
And has it gotten older? As you've gotten older, has that changed?
Definitely, it has. As I've written more and sort of taken more classes, and now also teaching writing, I've been able to, it becomes almost like a second nature. So. The ideas come to me really quickly, and the creativity aspect of it has sort of developed as well. And so, in what's happening inside my head, it can be better expressed on the page.
Now, Katie, when and how did you realize that there was a need for Kids' Tales?
When I got to middle school, so I had been writing for about 2 years on my own. And then when I got to middle school, I began to see that a lot of kids, and really most kids, don't get the opportunity to do any type of creative writing. I was lucky enough to be able to take writing classes outside of school, but in most cases, in school, we're writing essays and book reports. And when we do creative writing, we're typically told what to write about, and it's really not creative writing. And outside of school, there simply are no opportunities for kids coming from lower income families to write. And so I sort of saw this need for Kids' Tales and for students to get a writing opportunity, and that's sort of where it came from, and sort of where the idea of that simple big long workshop for students, just where they write a short story and then where it's put into a book and published, gives these students just some type of exposure to creative writing, and then sort of a reward after and getting this published book and being a published author.
Now you have workshops, right?
Mm-hmm.
So how are these workshops? Because we actually have interactive storytelling, which is an interesting similarity. So how do the workshops work, and who teaches them?
So the workshops are a week long, and they're all taught by teenagers. And the teenagers will go into a summer camp or a school, and for that week, they'll work with the students, and they'll brainstorm, write, and then edit their short story. Each student will come up with their short story, and throughout the week, they'll be doing plot development and character development and setting development. And then at the end of the week, the stories are all compiled into an anthology, and then we self-publish them on Amazon.com. So each of the students then can get the book and can be a published author and look their names up on Amazon, and they come up as published authors.
Let me ask you a question. Here's a question for you. Why do you think this is important?
Writing is, it's sometimes looked over, I think, but it's so important for, students in not just, in academic life, but it gives students sort of a way to express themselves and to be empowered, and, not only just write, and, maybe our students won't all become, Pulitzer Prize winners, but they are, they're empowered to do more. We've seen kids even just have, the courage to try out for a sports team, or apply to college, or, go to, apply to a tougher school within their own city, and just things that get these students just more involved and sort of more, empowered to do more.
And Katie, we'll have links later to where our listeners can find the anthologies. And I wanted to ask, do you have any examples of the impact your workshops have had on the kids who've attended? Any stories that have really stuck with you?
Yeah, definitely. There are actually two. The first one is one of our students from last year, and his name's Andre, and he was like very tough kid, as one would imagine a tough kid. He really liked sports, and he wanted to be playing dodgeball throughout the week, and he was always complaining that he couldn't play dodgeball. And so on the first day of the workshop, he was very sort of reluctant to go along and reluctant to do and participate in the workshop. But he was sort of sulking on the first day, and finally at the end of the first day, I went over to him, and I asked him sort of the questions I usually ask students who can't come up with something to write about, and I say, what's the weirdest dream you've ever had, or where's the craziest place you've ever been? And he keeps saying, I don't know, and then finally I say, what do you want to be when you grow up? And he looked me right in the eye, and he said, I'm going to be a professional basketball player. And I said, okay, write about that. And then he did, and he spent the week writing a really amazing story about, his dream and how he thought it was going to play out about professional basketball playing. And at the end of the week, he comes up to me, and he was like, Miss Katie, I didn't know writing could be fun. I thought this was something that was boring. And he goes, I'm never going to stop writing.
That's awesome.
He said that to us. Yeah, and so that was something that was really touching for us to see.
I think it's interesting, Katie, because if you are able to touch anybody, and this goes throughout life, and I think what you're doing is teaching people to find what interests them, and you as the teacher or as the workshop organizer are pinpointing things that gives them interest and give them hope. And I think that's what you have to do. We do the same thing in interactive storytelling. I've done exactly the same thing where I've had kids through foster care who are not in a very good mood when they walk into the class, but you've got to find the thing that interests them, and how do you get them out of that shell? Because if you don't, they will go down a different path, and that story you told about that young boy is very empowering for him and may change the way he looks at things entirely. What if he doesn't become a basketball player? At that point, he has something else he can fall back on, some joy of maybe he becomes a writer for basketball.
Exactly.
Do you know what I mean? So I think it's important to know. Have you done any other workshops in other countries, by the way?
We have, yeah. In the U.S., we've been teaching now. In the past, we've been in Milwaukee, which is where I'm from, and then also Chicago and Washington, D.C. And then last year, we had the opportunity to work with AFS, the American Field Service, which is an exchange program that exchanges students from other countries all over the world to other different countries. And they had a competition called AFS Project Change, which allowed teenagers in the U.S. to submit service projects that could be carried out abroad. And so we proposed Kids Tales Around the World and actually ended up winning their Vision in Action Award. And so we got to travel down to Colombia, South America, and teach a workshop down there in a little town called Villavicencio. And that was a lot of fun last year. And this year, actually, we're continuing that partnership, and we are traveling to a few places abroad. We're going to Guatemala and then also in Vancouver, and then we also have the opportunity, we're teaching a workshop in a Syrian refugee camp in Hungary.
In Hungary? Wow. That's interesting. I know Hungary very well. What do you think the biggest obstacles are to literacy?
It's not necessarily, wherever you go around the world, a lot of people will say, or ask the question, why is it that, kids that are coming from, higher income backgrounds and they're, getting accepted to college and writing these, amazing stories and getting their stories published. And so people will say, why is it that there's this talent coming from this specific pool of kids? And that's really not the case. It's not that there's a lack of talent for kids that are, underserved. It's that there's a lack of opportunity. So there's really no opportunities for these kids to be exposed to creative writing or exposed to any type of, literacy type thing that's viewed as fun. And so the biggest obstacle is really just giving them that opportunity and sort of exposing them to creative writing.
Well, Katie, you are this week's Peace Fund Hero of the Week. I think it's very important what you're doing. I think we've talked about literacy today. There are many different issues that face literacy, and I think you're one of the solutions. And I wish you all the best, and we'll keep up with your progress as you go.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
You're very welcome, and great to talk to you, and hope we'll talk to you soon.
Great. Thank you.
Take care of it, Katie. Bye-bye. So there you have it. I think that's another solution to the literacy problem that we talked about, especially for young women. Katie, how do you say Eder or Eder?
Eder.
Eder. You checked that, John, did you? I don't want any false notes on this show, you know.
I did check it.
Okay.
Because I've been wrong before.
There are barriers to education, of course. We have the cost of education, the distance to school, violence at school, poverty, early marriage and pregnancy, which we discussed earlier in the show. These are many issues that face our young school children today, especially girls. And there are certain solutions that we hope to be able to provide. Of course, this morning we had Katie Eder, who explained the literacy problem and how to solve that with what the writing experience is, to teach kids how to write. And I think, reading is another portion of that, but actually getting to school and being in school, as we talked today with Celeste from Days for Girls, about them actually being in school and teaching the world a little bit about how to actually increase the attendancy and the, how would I put it, acceptance of the male populations of women in this culture, and how much more we can actually produce if we allow our women to actually take part in the global change that I think is happening around this planet. John, thank you for bringing us that this morning.
Absolutely.
Do you have any other updates for us before we've got to go? Because, again, we are running out of time.
You can go to our blog at blog.thepeacefund.org and find information on the return of Pounds for Peace, where you can be sponsored by your friends to get fit. And, of course, it supports the Peace Fund. We have another initiative to build another well in Niger with our friends at Wells Bring Hope. You can find information there as well. And also, if you go to thepeacefund.org, you can figure out how to contribute to our supporter wall. For a donation of $250 or more, you can dedicate an episode of your choosing to someone special, and Adrian and Ethan will read your dedication here on the air.
And hopefully, if we can actually get our event on May 21st up and running, some of that money will actually go to building that well in Niger, West Africa, so we can actually help another section of the world's population actually get water and then stay in school and do what we've discussed all morning today.
Yeah, it's a great thing about Wells Bring Hope. It's not just about the water. They give those communities sustainable solutions to keep it going. It's fantastic.
Thank you, John, for joining us. Thank you, everybody out there. Ethan, thank you for helping us bring the show to the public. And again, this week I'm going to finish it with Celeste Mergens speaking at the UN Commission on the status of women in 2016. She said, "There are so many things that are hard to change in our world. This is not one of them. This is something we can change now, together." This is Adrian Paul and Ethan Dettenmaier. We'll see you again.
You're listening to Peace Fund Radio with Ethan Dettenmaier and Adrian Paul, right here on LA Talk Radio.